Well, welcome everyone to the after lunch session for the immersive web and VR and AR and some of the exciting things that we're doing. So real quick show of hands here. How many people are currently working with or exploring virtual reality, augmented reality? Okay, wow, great, awesome. All right, so we're just gonna, last question then. How many people are doing that for the web currently? All right, still some hands. All right, awesome. So thank you for joining us. So my name is Damon Hernandez. I'm on the Samsung Internet SRA team. And so we're going to very quickly touch into, what is WebXR? So for those that are familiar, XR kind of is this catch-all term for AR, VR, MR, and really kind of as they're evolving spatial computing and others. But the one way I'm going to ask that we look at this is kind of in two ways. Is that one, the web is becoming the next immersive platform. It's not just about static 2D anymore with web pages. We can add 3D to them, and then we can take that experience into VR and AR, either as you can see here with this image, courtesy of our friends over at Mozilla. It's a great GIF where you can see, again, how it works on flat displays in AR, and then also with 3 degrees and 6 degrees of freedoms, virtual reality. And then taking a look at where is the immersive web now? So on the entertainment side, there are quite what people are starting to see more and more of through ad campaigns. We're going to hear in a moment from a company that's doing some really interesting stuff when it comes to the web AR side. This is an example of a Spider-Man campaign that they did. And then also retail. We're seeing that there are much higher conversions to sell when you're able to give people this experience. But then what's great about the web, unlike the native application, is that your user has this ease of user experience to go from what they're known and what's familiar, which is the flat page, to the immersive experience, and then to the checkout process, right? And that's what's so cool about the web, is you can use things like the Web Payments API and others to really make it more of the standard kind of experience where you get a lot of drop-off normally when you have to do these native applications. And education as well. So some of these demos you can definitely stop by our booth to check out. In education, this is the National Institutes of Health is starting to explore the way that they can do different proteins and molecules that you can visualize, in addition to people who are using this in the medical space. So when I talk about immersive web, it's not just about VR, AR, right? It's about the ways that we can capture these levels of immersion across many different types of viewing. And not only that, though, but we're also seeing a new type of user experience now that's starting to be created. I mean, as a person who is, I would call myself a hobbyist designer and developer, is that what's great about Samsung is that from our phones, because everyone, that's going to be the first place where we get them hooked, right, is that we're able to offer them the security of Knox. So if you're focused like myself on enterprise, this is key. This is very important. You can use the biometrics, you can use the payments, and all the other services that we offer from getting the user at that point. And then what's also fun are the types of interfaces that can happen when you say, hey, I've got a browser on not only a watch, a tablet, a television, a refrigerator, right? And the Gear VR headset, and across other types of VR and AR displays. So what this allows for, I think, as a creative, is the ability to not say, how do I make a VR, AR application, as much as how do I make an application that has these VR and AR features, but then can talk to my smart things and connect and IoT and truly up the levels of immersion. And so where we're kind of going next with this is, what happens when you empower your users or your workforce with technology that allows for this, right? When you have IoT and then you start introducing things like 5G, on the enterprise side, we start seeing applications where, for example, construction workers can be out on the field having a wearable while the foreman that's in the office is able to look at the 3D model of that building, see where his people are on the job site, and access their information, right, in a variety of different ways. On the consumer side, we see these very neat experiences that people are wanting to play with, where in this scenario, you have a little character who kind of like a Tamagotchi, and most of the people in this room look like they remember those things, right? They could like live in your watch, but then jump out and run around, right? Interact with your lights, and jump in your fridge, tell you what you need to eat, and then jump in your TV and cue your favorite cartoon if you're a child. So there's these new types of interfaces. So in that, I definitely want to say there's a call to action. I want to see some of these experiences. I want to invite the developers that we have in our community to come up here and next year be the type of people who are showing us. We're talking about the types of multi-device experiences that you're building. And there's a great way to get involved. So one for sure is through meetups, hackathons, and workshops that we have. These resources will be available also by the booth if you want to come by. And then also, you know, if you are a designer, because you don't necessarily have to be a developer to do this, there are different tools that are available. So one, of course, is Amazon Sumerian, which is a pretty straightforward in-the-browser editing tool. Also, there's Flow Immersive, which we're demoing. It's more of an enterprise-type solution. And then, of course, there's Eighth Wall. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom from Eighth Wall.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you to the Samsung Internet team for having us here. Eighth Wall equips developers, agencies, and organizations with powerful tools to create augmented reality on the web. We're most known for our custom AR engine, but just yesterday we debuted our cloud-based authoring and hosting tool, which for the very first time allows developers to create, collaborate, and publish web AR projects. And I'm going to play a sizzle reel to show you what it's all about. So Eighth Wall's cloud editor with built-in hosting has a number of features that I want to highlight. We have a fully featured text editor that supports right out of the box popular web frameworks like A-Frame, Three.js, Babylon.js, Vue.js, and React. You can quickly get started by selecting a sample project as one of your templates to edit and build from. You can work with an unlimited team size across the globe simultaneously on one project thanks to our integrated distributed source control system with an in-browser merge conflict tool. And with a click of the button, you're able to deploy your code to multiple hosted environments, including a password-protected staging environment. Eighth Wall and their web AR experiences are all powered by our custom AR engine. Our custom SLAM engine enables both world tracking and image tracking in browser, and it's being utilized by countless brands that are all looking to use web AR to maximize their reach and engagement and to create friction-free experiences as there is no app required. Now, we're here at Samsung, and our authoring tool is cloud-based, which means that you can create, test, and deploy web AR experiences from any device. And the demo that I'm about to show you actually does this all from a Note 10 Plus using the power of DeX. And if you're not familiar with DeX, DeX extends your phone to a desktop, letting you hook up a monitor, a keyboard, a mouse, and this is exactly the setup that we are showing here in this demo. So again, we're on a Note 10 Plus. We're bringing up the Samsung browser to access our Eighth Wall account to create a project. We're going to give the project a name, and then we're going to jump right into the editor. The first thing that we're going to do is going to select a template. We're going to select the A-Frame place ground template, and you're going to see in a moment that all the code has been populated. Before we make any changes, we're going to go up and preview this augmented reality experience. Typically, you would scan the QR code, but as we're developing on a Note 10 Plus, we're on a phone, so we don't need to do that. We can just open up a browser tab, and you'll see here that we're able to tap the ground or tap the surface in front of us to place 3D trees. So that's great, really fast and easy, but we want to show you the editing capability. So going back into the editor, we're going to hit up the body, and we're going to insert some text into this scene. And so we're going to insert that code there, and we're going to preview this instantly by heading up to tap on the Save and Build button. And on the right-hand side for you in the tab, it's going to instantly refresh to show you these changes. In the meantime, you're able to view live console logs of any connected devices that you're testing on at this time. So you can see here that the change has been made. Hello, SDC. We can also test our original functionality, which is placing the trees on the ground. We love it. We're going to land these changes. Once we land these changes with a push of a button, we can actually head on over to the Project History tab to see a full history of our commits, including where our current client stands. And you'll see here that this page is going to automatically refresh, or it has already with the commit that we just did. Here on our deployment management page, which we just hit with a tap of a button, we can now deploy this code to our staging or to the public. And so in just under 2 minutes, using a Node 10+ with DEX, we created, tested, and deployed WebAR. If you want to learn more, visit eighthwall.com. We're also going to be doing a live demo of our authoring and hosting platform. Rigel Benton, our interaction designer, will be at the Samsung Internet booth later. But don't go yet, because I'm going to hand off the clicker to Ada, who's going to tell you a little bit more about developers. Thank you.
Cool, thanks so much, Tom. Yeah, so I'm Ada Rose Cannon. I work for the Samsung Internet Browser as a developer advocate. But more relevant to my talk here today is that I'm co-chair of the Immersive Web Working Group in the W3C. This is the group that's that's designing the WebXR device API that's currently being implemented across browsers. The goals of the WebXR device API are to build a single experience in the web that works across a wide range of devices. You can target virtual reality devices and AR devices with a single build, detecting what the user has asked for. So if they've asked for AR, you can remove the backdrop and just display the raw content. If they're doing VR, you can build up a full virtual world around them. It works on handsets, it works in headsets, should work on future devices too. So we're really designing this API so that if you build the WebXR today, it's still going to work 5 or 10 years in the future. And it's the fastest way for developers to get into VR or AR, because you can build VR and AR using HTML or JavaScript, like languages which you already know, in order to build a scene and display it to users. So who's involved in the efforts for the Immersive Web Working Group? Well, these are just some of the big companies involved. So there's Microsoft, because they have the HoloLens. There's Google, because they've got their Daydream ecosystem. There's Magic Leap with their Magic Leap 1. Apple recently joined us. There's Amazon, because they're maintaining Sumerian. There's Facebook with the Oculus platform. Eighth Wall have joined. Mozilla for their browser, so it's supporting WebXR, and Samsung as well. So when is WebXR landing? Because this is probably the question you'll want to know. Well, implementations are being worked on in multiple browsers through multiple vendors. And you can try it today in Chrome. It's behind a flag for VR and AR. Or you can use the Origin trial to start showing it to customers. The API will change compared to what's currently in Chrome and what's going to be the final version of the API. But what's there is a good way to get started, and the changes will be pretty small. There is a polyfill as well you can do today. So a polyfill is a JavaScript library that fills in the gaps in implementations. So if you're on a web browser that only supports WebVR, by using the polyfill, it'll support WebXR as well. So you can ship to older devices and target newer devices with the same implementation. For Samsung Internet, our browser, we're looking at shipping it in Q2 2020, so middle of next year sometime. You can check out where the work is happening. It's all done in the open on GitHub, and you can get the polyfill from github.com/immersive-web/WebXR polyfill. Or if you want to take part or look at in the standardization efforts, I encourage you to take a look, especially if your company is already part of the W3C. So what about WebVR? Who has heard of WebVR before? A few hands. So I'm really sorry. If you've come to hear me speak about this before in the last couple of years, I've probably been very enthusiastic about WebVR. Unfortunately, which WebVR was the earlier version of the WebXR API, which we were using, which was like a prototype version of what eventually became WebXR. Unfortunately, it turned out it wasn't looking very future-proof. It wasn't going to support AR hardware. There was a lot of work that needed to be done with it. So WebVR has been deprecated. There are implementations of it still out in the wild, but they will start disappearing over time. So if you do have a application that's built on top of WebVR, I strongly encourage you to migrate it to WebXR with the polyfill in the back end, so you can still support your existing WebVR hardware. So on top of like the core WebXR elements, which brings VR to the web, there's two modules which are landing soon, which I really want to talk about and highlight. So we have a module for controllers. So this allows you to get access to the actual controller hardware, so you can tell where it is in 3D space and what buttons are being pushed. We also have a module for AR, which gives you access to augmented reality, so you can place objects in the user's environment. So right now, it's just the ability to display objects and get the position. So you can place objects on walls or floors. Nah, not on walls. You can place objects on the floor around them, but you can't scan for walls or tables or anything, at least not yet. The work is being done in parallel in a different module, but it's not quite at the same stage as controllers and AR are yet. Although, speaking of that, real-world sensing, a test implementation of it, or experimental implementation of it, is behind a flag in Chrome at the moment. So you can still try out what the current state of it is. And I think it even works with A-Frame Master. So please take a look and try that out, because getting feedback into the standards process from developers like yourselves is really important. So let's talk about the controllers part. So controllers was a really difficult thing to standardize, because there's a lot of VR headsets out there, and the controllers look really different and have extremely different capabilities, which means if we standardized a prototype or typical controller, by the time a new headset comes out, whatever we standardize will be totally invalid. So we've really kept what's exposed through the browser as thin as possible. So the two main things that are exposed through the XR input source is the profiles, which is a list of identifiers that map to the controller. So starting from a really specific name, so for example, an Oculus Quest controller, and there might be multiple names, and then the final name will be a very generic controller. It'll be something like generic controller with a joystick and a trigger. This allows you to target a particular piece of hardware and give the best possible result for every hardware you can imagine. Or if you want, you can only target the generic hardware, giving you the same experience no matter what the user's doing, and they'll all have a generic controller, or anything in between. But to help with this, we're working on an open source library that's being built within the standardization effort, but not actually part of the standard itself. And this library has two main parts. We provide the 3D models of the controllers in GLTF format with really sensible node names which map to the inputs from the controller. We have the we provide profiles which map from the gamepad object exposed through the XR input source, which maps it to those node names in GLTF. And the library itself will do interpolation for you so that you can, by using it, you'll have the correct model for the user, for what they're providing, and the model is provided by the hardware manufacturer. So you know it's the correct representation for the model for whatever the hardware is using. And the user's interactions will be represented, as you can see in the animation below, where it's, as I'm wiggling the joystick, the model wiggles as well. This is still being worked on. It's not quite ready for to be used yet, but hopefully over the next few months, it'll get to the point where you can start using it in your existing projects. You can test it out already using a gamepad simulator. And as you try out the different parts of the gamepad API, you'll see different bits of the model move. And this is kind of what you can expect in the VR scene. Our plans for augmented reality are very much starting ready to try out today. We have 2 modes which get exposed through the WebXR device API. So there's inline mode. This is where you have a VR scene that's embedded in a web page. So the user can look around their phone and see what's happening without putting it into any kind of headset. Then we have the immersive VR mode. When you do this, you can put the device into a headset, either if it's like a headset-mounted phone device, it will split it up with the picture side by side, or if you've got an external headset, it will extend it to the external headset. So this gives you everything you need for VR. But what it adds for AR is the immersive AR enum. But there's no inline AR because AR is a very privacy-sensitive API. So if you use immersive AR on a phone, it will open up full screen, only showing you the WebGL context. So you can't use HTML and CSS. But this is something which we will want to enable as future modules in WebXR. But that's the state we're at the moment. And of course, if you do it in an AR headset, you'll render the content to the world around you. But that's mostly what I wanted to cover today and try and let you know the state of what WebXR is like today. I really encourage you to try it out. You can use it today in Three.js, Babylon, and A-Frame. At least I think Babylon. Can you use it in Babylon? Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Is anyone from Microsoft
From Microsoft,
here?
yeah.
I think you can use it in Babylon, but if not, hopefully it will be soon. They've said they're working on it because I'm a Three.js A-Frame developer personally. Yeah, but thank you so much. Come by the Samsung Internet booth, come talk to us, ask me any questions. Like, I'm chair of the effort, so I know a lot of the up-to-date information. Between 1 and 2 p.m., 8th Wall are going to be demoing the building for 8th Wall on Samsung DeX, which is super cool and just amazing that you can just develop with just a phone, because I'm always leaving my laptop at home. And if you've built something, come and show me. I want to see it. Like, it's been years of hard work getting this API out there, and I want to see what people are building. Thank you so much.